I'm going to speak about eating one meal a day. It's a practice that I adopted about 10 years ago, and it seems like about half my life I've been eating one meal a day, and for 10-year stretches or more. The reason I always go back to it is because it's so healthy, and I just want to share some thoughts on that practice of eating once a day. Of course, most of us know it's the monastic way in a good part of the world. It's considered a fantastic practice amongst monastics. And for very good reasons. I'll speak about the reasons that I found work for me. One of the most important ones is that if you eat once a day, your general ability to focus is much better than not eating once a day. And the reason is, when we get hungry, we start thinking about food, of course, and preparing it, procuring it, and of course, all that goes along with making a meal. If you eat once a day, the focus is on that meal. So it's singleness of focus. When that meal is done, that's no longer a focus. Food is no longer a focus for the day. And our mind is more malleable and pliant for using towards anything else we apply it to, whether it be meditation, philosophical inquiry, study, or just carrying on with the responsibilities of the day, whatever they may be. They can be done with greater attention. Another reason for eating one meal a day, it's one that really went home to me when I first became a monk, when I was about 22. And I was a monk from about 22 to 32, something like that. A fully ordained monk. And I ate once a day during that time. Before that time, I was really into, I was an extremely physical person, surfing a lot, swimming, bodybuilding, mountain climbing, and I walked a lot. I burned up a lot of energy, and I still do. I ate 3 meals a day and sometimes more when I was very, very active prior to my monk years, all through my teenage years and before becoming a monk. When I was a monk, everybody else ate once a day when I entered the monastery, so I figured, well, I didn't make a big deal out of it. I said, well, I might as well go along with the program. I wasn't forced to. It was voluntary. Something I did voluntarily. And one of the first things I noticed is that I didn't lose any strength at all. None. I didn't lose any weight either. I've always been around 185 to the highest when I was really into bodybuilding was 235. And I've always been lean and strong and I never had a weight problem. except for gaining it, which is the opposite of most people. It was very, very difficult for me to gain any weight at any time when I wanted to for bodybuilding. So I can sympathize with those who have trouble losing it, because it's just the opposite. It's very hard for some people to lose weight. So when I started eating once a day as a monastic, it really worked. I felt really great, and I was able to practice and do everything I like to do without being distracted by food, except for that 1 or 2 hours before lunchtime, and then you really start thinking about it. You see how busy the mind gets thinking of food. So one of the reasons is for health, eating 1 meal a day for health, physical health. I rarely get sick now. I'm 78. As a monk, I was never sick, ever, in 10 years. Not even, no flus, no colds, no nothing. My job was to wake up everybody in the morning, and it wasn't a day I didn't show up to do that at 3:40 a.m. So when you eat once a day, your body only has to process food once. That's it. It takes a lot of energy for the digestion and everything to take place to process food that we eat. If you eat once a day, that only happens once, obviously. So the body has a lot more energy to spend on other things. And you feel lighter, much lighter, and mentally more alert and focused, because when we digest food, a lot of the energy goes from our brain to our stomach. Of course, then there's a whole thing about preparing food, cleaning up afterwards, going to get it, and so forth. There's a lot of time that's spent doing all of that. That consumes a good part of our day, and over a lifetime it amounts up to quite a lot of years. If there were some benefit to it, of course, then it would be necessary, but it's not really necessary. If we eat once a day, we're happier. We're lighter in body and mind. And we know our body far, far better. Know what our body needs far better than if we can eat anytime we want or snack anytime we want. People that eat once a day, monastics and others like myself, they really know their food. When I lived in the Himalayas, a parallel could be the Sherpas. Like, the Sherpas carry their body weight regularly throughout the Himalayas, and they're going all day. And when you talk to a Sherpa about food and you eat with them, you find out that they really know to the hour which foods will stay with them and how long they will stay with them. And it's quite remarkable, because as a bodybuilder, I knew all of this stuff really well. But I was surprised that these mountain people, they knew all the same stuff I did. You know, they even would make these little balls about as big as a baseball out of butter and dry cheese and ground up toasted barley flour, and they would take that and make about a third of each, and they would make these balls like the size of a base. Oh, and sugar. So it would be about a third sugar, a third barley flour, a third butter, and a third what's called Tush. It's a real small, like cottage cheese that's dried in the sun, so it's almost like sand. And they mixed all of that together, equal parts, and make it into a ball. It all sticks together because of the butter. And one of those balls, about the size of a baseball, they would put one or two in their robe where they're trekking, and then they would eat that throughout the day, break off a little chunk. Because a lot of times when you're up in the mountains, there aren't any places to get food, you know, there's no grocery stores or anything. So you're going from place to place, you're going to maybe be 8 hours without seeing any place. Usually there's chai shops in the Himalayas, but where you can get something. But the something you get generally is generally rice and really watery dals. So these Sherpas, they knew what to eat. And they even had a saying, if you eat white rice, it stays with you 2 hours. If you eat ground barley, it'll stay with you 6 hours. So, and the same with wheat and millet. These are all favorites of them. And of course, unprocessed. So when you eat once a day, you know, your body really tells you what it needs. And everybody's body is different, so you can't like get a diet book and figure out a good diet for you, because it's like the Dharma. You can't read a Dharma book that's good for everybody. We're all different. We all think differently. We are as different as our minds are, as our physical constitutions are. So what really works for one person will not work for another. So you find when you eat once a day, your body, you really tune in to your body. Your body really tells you on no uncertain terms what it needs. And if you don't follow it because you're going 24 hours to the next meal, you really know you screwed up, and you know why you screwed up. So it doesn't take very long, you know, where you don't really screw up at all, because you don't want to be going 8 or 10 hours hungry. So you know what's going to stay with you till the next meal, and how much you should eat every meal too, without, you know, overeating or not eating enough. Another thing I'll touch on here, if any, is some people say, you know, I often thought, well, I see people that eat once a day, and why are they so fat? Well, I had my own ideas, and I found confirmation of those ideas because I believe it was Time magazine or a mainstream magazine or the New York Times did an article, "Why are monks so fat?" And they were specifically making an article on Thailand, because it's known that Thai monks eat once a day. Well, they did an investigative report, and they found out that in Thailand, you know, yeah, you can eat once a day, but then there's various things that are all the drinks are off limits. You can drink what you want. So typically the monks that get fat will drink sugar drinks, fattening drinks, you know, maybe dairy, fattening dairy or whatnot. And then also, I forgot what it is right now, but another thing that's not off limits is some kind of Thai cake or something, like a pastry of some sort. or cookie or something. They can have a few of those. So when you start having something like that where you can have a few of these, or you can drink as much soda as you want, that's when they did this report, they found out that the monks that were fat took advantage of that, what they can drink after afternoon. And they took advantage of whatever this little cookie is. If it's an offering or something, you're allowed to do it. So as soon as you you open that door, you open the door to all sorts of problems. Myself, as a monk, I took a vow to only drink water afternoon. That solved all my problems. But I got more lax after a few years of that, and I would drink green tea and stuff, and Tibetan tea. But I was pretty careful to have, 2 large cups, 1 cup in the morning, 1 cup in the evening, and by cup I mean like a 20-ounce cup. So it's not like I was, not drinking any beverages, but I would limit it, and I never drank anything sweet. Sometimes juice in the morning, but that even was pretty rare for me. So when you eat once a day, you get healthier, and healthier in mind too. You have more energy and more time to do what you want to do. So eating once a day is really a brilliant choice. I'm not advocating it. I might sound like I am, but maybe through the, each individual probably will interpret what I said differently, and maybe some people will realize that, well, once a day is not for me, but at least I can avoid snacking. And snacking is actually, if you're not going to eat once a day, if you eat 3 times a day and you really eat 3 times a day, that's also really a big step in the right direction, because if you avoid all snacking, then your body, every time you eat anything, if your stomach is empty and you eat a few chips, the whole mechanism starts. The whole digestive system and everything gets going. That's why snacking is really terrible for you, because it gets everything going, and then you don't put anything inside that's substantial. Then you eat less of a healthy meal when the mealtime comes. So one of the things that people that eat 3 times a day could learn from the monastics is to avoid all snacking, because if you really discipline eating once a day, 3 times a day, and really keep it to 3 times a day, then you're really focused 3 times a day on food. You're not distracted by having snacks or taking time to have snacks. Snacks sometimes people will snack for an hour or so, shooting the breeze with a friend or reading a magazine or something. If you avoid all that, if you avoid snacking, you have a lot more time, free time for your mind to be focused on things. And you're a lot healthier and more energetic when the food is only 3 times, because your body isn't set to work on digesting foods at odd times. So the whole idea of food, and here I'm just talking about eating once a day or 3 times a day, or disciplining one's food, talking about some of those advantages, that's a really good step in the right direction as a supportive practice for meditation, self-inquiry, understanding the nature of the mind, and so forth. Because you start seeing how the mind thinks and so forth, how it projects to take care of the body and so forth. So you gain a lot of mental strength and physical strength from disciplining food intake. Perhaps in another video, I'll talk about some of the mono diets I've gone on. Most of them have been extremely beneficial, but I've gone on a bunch of them, so I think I will talk about them sometime. By mono diet, I mean, for example, I got into Brandt's Grape Cure, which was a cancer institute in Mexico that only fed their patients grapes, and you'd eat grapes for 6 months, and that's it. And I did it for, I don't remember how long, but quite a long time, several weeks. And I did Arnold Ehret's mucus diet healing system for a couple of months. Dharma Master Hong Shun and I did 1 coconut bowl of fruit a day for 1 year. That was brutal. But anyway, that will be another video on mono diets. I hope everyone enjoyed this video. I had fun reflecting on these thoughts.